Hey guys, what's up? Let's do a channel update. I haven't done one of these in quite a while. We'll talk about YouTube channel, final trade, what I'm doing, how business is going, everything else. So first, on the YouTube side, I continue to get something about 2 new subscribers per day on average, which I am absolutely fine with. You know, when the channel was smaller and I hadn't been doing this as long, I used to go to the YouTube analytics page on the backside of my channel like twice a day, just looking at the data and trying to figure things out and learn things and figuring out, how could I parse the data and decide what video to make, stuff like that. Nowadays, I go to that analytics page twice a month, maybe. And mostly it's to make sure that the kind of subscriber growth is still about 2 per day, and just to see what the revenue numbers are for the channel. Now, a channel my size, I make about $65 a month on YouTube ad revenue. I have all ads enabled, sorry. But YouTube does not actually pay you until they owe you at least $100. So like I get about $130 every other month. So I'm not even big enough to get paid every month on the YouTube side. And that's fine because for the most part, I feel like the interactions have kind of shifted over to Patreon. And so I see YouTube in the long term, like I still love making videos and I still love the interaction that I have here and I love sharing things and stuff like that. But when it comes to like one-on-one interactions, I mostly do that through Patreon now with my paying subscribers there. And, I make probably 2.5 times as much or something like that after Patreon takes its cut as I do on YouTube. So that's growing very steadily. It's a lot of fun over there because I get to have the kind of interesting conversations with a self-selected group of people who are willing to join that community. And so it's like this additional selection process. And so it just the types of questions that I get are really fascinating, and I have a lot of fun talking over there in messages with people. For the most part, I save a lot of the great Pokemon deals. I only share them over there. I do share some over here, but a lot more over there and a lot more EV analyses. I don't post all of them here on YouTube, and so. But in the long run, we have to be cognizant that YouTube is like the feeder to Patreon. So like I could never stop doing YouTube. Also, like YouTube just has the ability to grow probably much more than Patreon. When I look at Patreon, let's think of it this way. When I make a YouTube video, I can talk in front of a camera for 10 or 20 minutes and then everybody can view it. Like it could get, typical 300, 400, 500 views, or maybe it'll catch the algorithm a little bit and it'll get, 3,000 or 4,000 views, something like that. But on Patreon, the marginal cost for me to do things on there is much higher because it's personalized interaction. And so at some point, I'm going to have to put a cap on the number of people on Patreon. Now, I don't know what that number will even look like right now. I have something like 65 subscribers on Patreon. I don't know if by the time I get to 100, will it be enough that I'll feel like I have to ration my time a little better. I don't know, maybe 200, maybe 300. I don't know where that number is at all now. I know I'm not there yet, but I am at least cognizant that one day I'll get there. So, like I said, things are still growing on the channel. I still like making the videos. It's never going to stop. And it's just that, like a lot of the other marginally expensive interaction that I do, I focus it on Patreon because I see that in the long run as a better way to grow the business and to kind of get those interactions that I really desire. One of the reasons that I started Final Trade in the first place was because I was looking for a specific audience. I was looking for the best audience, and I was looking for the people who would give me those ideas, who would have the great questions to get me thinking about things, who would correct me when I'm wrong and help me to understand things better. And I'm finding that, and it's really rewarding because like the people who have hung around on the channel for a long time now, folks who have been subscribers and have just commented on videos now for 12, 18, 24 months, and people who I kind of recognize, oh yeah, that's a guy who lives in Australia, or he's the guy who owns the business that does this thing or whatever. You kind of get to develop those relationships and understand that like, oh yeah, that guy has some interesting perspective because he's told me that he does this thing. And so finding that specialized audience that has a very high quality to it is something that has really started to pick up in, say, the last 6 to 9 months. And it's just got to become so much more rich in terms of the quality of the audience for the YouTube channel and for Patreon. So on kind of the business side, buying, selling, investing, I've been selling tons of signals on TCG Player. I've been doing tons of analyses on boxes for inverted EV to open for singles. I've been opening tons of boxes. Man, if I kind of have a theory I'm working on, and I'll share it more in the future, but a theory for how to identify good boxes that are then worth your time to go do the EV analysis on, and it's just working out great. I mean, October was the best month ever in Final Trade's history for total gross revenue, and it knocked the number 2 month out by a 2.5 to 1 ratio. So just the amount of sales that I'm doing are just enormous and growing. I'm hoping that by next year the channel can become, or the business can become self-funding. There's always been an amount of money every month that I've put from my personal finances into the business to do things like invest in product, to capitalize the business, to buy products for resale, to buy boxes to break open for singles, and now things like patron income, YouTube income, affiliate linking income, all of those things are kind of growing to the levels where, along with the money I make off of selling off on TCG Player and eBay, by next year I hope to be making enough profit that it will equal what I've historically self-funded with every month. So we'll see. Even at that point, though, I will probably continue to self-fund on top of that just to grow the business faster. And so everything looks really bright for the future, and I kind of get upset because I see people who are so negative about the TCG market right now, about things falling in price. Old reserve list has fallen in price, old boxes have fallen in price, everything's fallen in price on the Magic side. Is there anything on the Magic side that's doing well? I would argue Lord of the Rings collector boxes, the original ones, those are still doing well because they had an original wholesale price, I think, of $288, and they're like $360 today in the market. So that's like the only place in the last 18 months that's actually doing great. But I feel like the future is so bright that I get so many comments from people on YouTube about capitulating over Magic, about giving up on Magic. And, I've always been a counter-cyclical investor who looks around and says, man, the market is overreacting way too much. And that's when I go in and I buy stuff. And I'm seeing that in Magic now. And it's incredible seeing the sheer weight of negativity around Magic. And I see that as a huge opportunity for the 3 to 5 year time span of some of these products from this era are going to recover incredibly. They'll all recover to some degree over time. When you have assets like these, time heals all wounds with them, but some of them are just going to shock you. I think Baldur's Gate draft boxes are one of the things people are going to lose their mind at how fast those appreciate over the next 3 to 5 years. They've always sold under wholesale costs. People have been so negative on the expansion, and yet when you sell tons of singles out of it, you see how fast the singles move. You see how much people actually love the cards in them. It supports the most popular play format. It's got great cards in it, and yet the attitude has always been, it's horrible, it's Baldur's Gate. And so I think people just haven't been putting that back in the closet like they have other things, and in the next 3 to 5 years, that's one of those products that's really going to shock people with how well it appreciates. And I think there's a lot more that will do that over time. So I think there's a very positive future out there for Magic. Yes, there are absolute idiots running the thing right now. Eventually they'll lose their jobs. It'll take too long, and they'll do way more damage than they should have been allowed to do in the meantime. But in the long run, Magic is still the biggest TCG in North America. It's still the biggest TCG worldwide. And that's probably not going to change. The idiots at the top now probably cannot continue destroying things long enough to really wreck the game permanently. Now, it will take time to heal those wounds, but again, some products will recover faster than others. when it comes to things like Flesh and Blood, I see just amazing opportunity. It's such a well-run game. It's grown so much in the last couple of years. And I look at how small the print runs of the early products were. And I know, again, people lost their minds when they saw 125,000 Monarch First Edition boxes. And the reality is it's not nearly enough. People used to lose their minds over Magic Unlimited print run. And I've seen the data. There's actually reasonably good data on how many boxes were printed of that. I don't recall it offhand, but we look around today, not nearly enough boxes. Now, do I think you'll have to wait 30 years like we did for Unlimited to get the prices to really spike to insane levels? No. You'll have good returns all along the way, gradual returns over time, and you can decide when you're ready to sell. But I think people will be shocked at how things like that appreciate on the 3, 5, 7, 10-year timeline for Flesh and Blood. Because if you look at how the game has grown in the last 18 months, how it continues to grow, and the trajectory that it's on, how well it's managed, how deeply it's established in the TCG world, there are not going to be nearly enough boxes in 5 and 10 years. So I think the opportunity is great there. Pokemon always has great opportunity. I had a comment from someone on the What Did I Buy video a week ago, and I couldn't understand the comment because it's a written comment on the internet and you can't quite tell their tone. And they said something like, you're buying Scarlet and Violet ETBs in 2023. And I couldn't tell if they meant like I was the foolish one for buying those because everything Scarlet and Violet is garbage, or if I was like the courageous one or the smart one, maybe even buying those because Pokemon always does great. I'd like to believe it was someone complimenting me and saying, oh, well, yeah, you're one of the few smart people buying this stuff while it's so cheap. And yeah, those ETBs were incredibly cheap. Most card stores can't buy them at those kind of prices. But, the short-term negativity around Pokemon is just, it's fascinating to watch. When you go and you look at the data and you see how Pokemon boxes from the last 12, 13 years, they just whip the ever-living crap out of the S&P 500. And then people are negative about Pokemon going into the future. And it's like, guys, like, if you're negative, it's incumbent upon you to give a really good reason for why you think something has fundamentally changed and this won't continue into the future. Like, if you're negative on Pokemon, on today's Pokemon products for the long term, like, you're the one who has to explain why this time is different. And maybe I'll make another why this time is different video because it's such a nuanced bit of investor psychology that's so fascinating in and of itself. But, Pokemon has such a great future ahead of it. There's so many great deals on Pokemon out there. I mean, there's still a lot of opportunity for $3 to $4 Sword and Shield booster packs. I'm seeing Scarlet and Violet booster packs at $2.50 to $3. Just amazing deals. And that's not even if you're willing to bust apart collections and sell all the stuff that's inside of them to offset some of your other costs. So just so much opportunity. I'm so optimistic. And you guys who have been around here for a while, 12, 18, 24 months, I'm the most optimistic person on the future that you'll ever meet. No matter what's going on in the world today, in the long run, the future is always bullish. And markets will grow, new technologies will always come along, life will get better, everyone gets wealthier, the rising tide lifts all boats. And you know what? We go through rocky times in markets, no matter what market it is. We go through things like the financial crisis, the dot-com bust, this or that, COVID, whatever, that rock markets. And in the long run, yep, it's still up. It has bumps in the road, but in the long run, it just keeps going up over the long period of time. And that's what you have to focus on as an investor. Don't get caught in the straight line fallacy of zooming in ultra tightly on one asset that's gone down for the last month and say, well, I guess it's just going to keep going down till it's zero. Don't do that. Don't let price drive your sentiment. Look out 3, 5, 7, 10 years on assets, whether it's stocks or real estate or whatever, whether it's TCGs or Pokemon ETBs or whatever. You have to look out at the long run and you see all the potential out there for the future. And so I look at that against the backdrop of October having been the best month of gross revenue in Final Trade's history, of all the inverted EV on singles that I'm picking up. And just, man, I feel so good about the future of this, and I'm so optimistic. So thanks so much for coming along so far. I hope all of you stay around for the long term. I was incredibly humbled after I released the What Did I Buy in October video, which I kind of view that as like my big advertising video for the Patreon every month. I view that as like my opportunity to try to convince people to join the Patreon, you know, and you probably see it that way too. And I was so humbled that after I published that video a couple days ago, I got like 14 new patrons in the next 36 hours. And I thought, man, I wish every one of them would stay for the long term. I wish every one of them sees the value in the Patreon program. But, you know, if some normal amount of them do, like 80% of them hang around for the long term, even that's great. And so just seeing things like that make me so optimistic for the future of Final Trade, for where I want to take this, where it could possibly go, and the opportunities ahead, and just all the fun that I'm having doing this. So, you know, I often think about things like my career or like life in general or Final Trade's future, and I see them, I imagine them as this kind of like when you look off into the distance and, you know, you see things out there in the distance, and when I think about the future of Final Trade, it's like there's a future out there off in the distance, and it's a little blurry. I don't know what it looks like yet. I have ideas for what I would like it to look like, but I understand that, you know, maybe they won't pan out, or maybe my desires will change, or maybe the realities will change. And so I see it as this kind of blurred potential future. And in between here, where I am now, and there's a pathway, and the pathway isn't clear either. And in some places there's breaks in it, and I don't know how to get there. But I feel like right now, in the last several months, the kind of growth that I've seen in the channel, in the Patreon, in the business, and everything else, and the kind of opportunity I see out there in this incredible bear market right now, I feel like everything is just a little sharper. And that future is a little closer on the horizon, and the pathway to get there is a little less broken. So I don't know what it looks like, I don't know where we're going, and I don't know how we'll get there. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and I feel like things are moving in the correct direction. And it's more than that. I mean, I know they're moving in the correct direction. All of the lines are going up, to put it in the Wall Street bets jargon. So thanks a lot so much to everybody, whether you're a patron or a subscriber here on YouTube, or somebody who just drives by and watches a video once in a while and is not subscribed. You know, all of it helps out. All of it contributes a little to the program and keeps it moving in the correct direction. And as always, thanks so much to everybody who makes this possible, especially my exceptionally generous patrons. Let me know what you think, guys. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join me on Final Trade. Future is always bullish.